The vast emptiness of space suddenly filled with light as dozens of ships tore through the fabric of reality. The vessels gleamed under the distant sun, their metal hulls adorned with the emblem of the Galactic Hegemony, the most powerful collection of alien species in the known universe. Admiral Voss stood on the command deck of the flagship, his 4 eyes scanning the monitors that displayed the small blue planet ahead. Earth. The name sounded primitive to his ears, just like the species that inhabited it. "Report," he commanded, his voice deep and confident after centuries of military service. A subordinate officer approached holding a data tablet. "The humans have detected our arrival, Admiral. Their communications have increased by 300% in the last hour." Voss nodded. This was expected. New species always panicked when the hegemony arrived. It was part of the process. Shock, fear, and then acceptance of their new place in the galactic order. "What about their defenses?" he asked. "Minimal, sir. They have a small orbital station with what appears to be defensive capabilities, and approximately 40 armed satellites. Their technology is at least 200 years behind our standard." Voss allowed himself a small smile. This would be simple. The Hegemony Council had ordered him to assess and integrate Earth into their empire with minimal fuss. They were expanding their borders, and this solar system happened to be in the way. "Send a communication request to their leaders," he ordered. "Let's see what these humans are made of." Captain James Miller floated in the command module of Orbital Defense Station Alpha, watching with growing concern as the alien fleet positioned itself just beyond the moon's orbit. In his 15 years with the ODF, he had never expected to be the one making first contact with aliens. "Sir," called out Lieutenant Davis, her eyes wide. "They're broadcasting some kind of signal toward Earth. All frequencies." Miller pushed himself toward the communication station. "Can we intercept it?" "Already done. It's a message, sir. In English. Somehow they know our language." Miller wasn't surprised. If these aliens could travel between stars, translating a language would be child's play. "Put it through." The screen flickered, and Miller found himself staring at a creature unlike anything he had ever seen. It had 4 eyes set in a face that resembled a cross between a lizard and an insect, with bluish skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. "People of Earth," the creature spoke, its mouth moving in perfect sync with the English words. "I am Admiral Voss of the Galactic Hegemony. We have come to welcome your world into our alliance of species. Your planet resides within territory we now claim. We offer you the opportunity to join us peacefully and benefit from our advanced technology and protection." Miller felt a chill run down his spine. He had watched enough science fiction to know what "welcome into our alliance" really meant. "They want us to surrender," Davis whispered. Miller nodded grimly. "Get me a secure line to the World Security Council. They need to see this." Within hours, Miller found himself representing humanity in the first official meeting with an alien species. The Hegemony had agreed to a video conference rather than an in-person meeting, which suited Miller fine. He sat in the station's conference room, surrounded by screens showing the faces of world leaders and military commanders from Earth's major powers. Admiral Voss's face dominated the main screen. "We appreciate your contact, Admiral," Miller began, sticking to the script provided by Earth's hastily assembled diplomatic team. "However, Earth is an independent world. We're interested in peaceful relations, but not in becoming part of your hegemony." Voss's upper eyes blinked slowly, while his lower pair remained fixed on Miller. The alien seemed amused. "Captain Miller, you misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. The hegemony has expanded to include this sector of space. Your choices are simple. Join us with your autonomy partially intact or resist and lose everything." The United States President spoke up from one of the side screens. "We will not be threatened. Earth has defended itself from many dangers and we—" Yes, Voss interrupted. "Every species says the same thing. But look at the facts. Our smallest ship could destroy your largest city. We have thousands of ships, you have one small orbital station." Miller felt his face grow hot with anger, but he maintained his composure. "Admiral, we request time to discuss your proposal among our world leaders." Voss made a gesture that might have been a shrug. "You have 12 of your Earth hours. After that, We will begin the integration process with or without your cooperation. The transmission ended, leaving Miller staring at a blank screen. They're not giving us much choice, said the Russian president. They don't know us very well, replied the Indian Prime Minister. Captain Miller, what's your assessment of their capabilities? Miller considered carefully before answering. Their technology is far beyond ours, but they've only brought a small fleet, maybe 20 ships. They're not expecting a fight. Then perhaps we should surprise them, said the Chinese general, his face grim but determined. The 12 hours passed quickly. Earth's nations had reached a unified decision for perhaps the first time in history. They would not surrender without showing the aliens what humans were made of. As Miller prepared to deliver Earth's response, alarms blared throughout the station. Sir, Davis shouted from her console. One of the alien vessels has broken formation. It's approaching Station Beta. Station Beta was the smaller of Earth's two orbital defense platforms, primarily used for scientific research but with some defensive capabilities. Miller rushed to the viewport in time to see a beam of intense light shoot from one of the smaller alien ships toward the distant form of Station Beta. The station's exterior lights flickered and then went dark. They've disabled Beta's power systems, Davis reported. Life support is on emergency backup. 300 people are on that station. Sir, Miller's decision was immediate. Activate defense protocols. Target the ship that fired and show them we're not helpless. Admiral Voss watched with mild interest as one of his scout ships disabled the smaller human station. It was a necessary demonstration of power. New species often needed to see what they were up against. What he didn't expect was the response. Admiral, his tactical officer called out, alarm evident in his voice. The humans are firing on Scout Ship 7. Voss turned to the main screen in time to see multiple projectiles launching from the Earth's surface and from their main orbital station. The weapons were primitive, basic missiles with nuclear warheads. But there were dozens of them, all converging on the scout ship that had fired on their station. Impossible, Voss muttered. Their technology shouldn't allow for such targeting precision. Before the scout ship could maneuver away, 3 missiles struck its hull. The ship's shields flared and failed, and a moment later it exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Silence fell over the command deck. They destroyed one of our ships, someone finally said, disbelief evident in their voice. Voss felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries: uncertainty. These humans weren't supposed to have weapons capable of penetrating hegemony shields. His intelligence had been wrong. More missiles were launching now, targeting his other ships. 2 more vessels reported shield damage. Retreat, Voss ordered, his voice tight with anger and shock. Pull back beyond their weapon range. As his fleet disengaged, Voss stared at the blue planet with new respect and concern. The humans had just accomplished something no species had done in over a century. They had forced a hegemony fleet to retreat. This isn't over, he promised, already planning his return with a proper invasion force. We've merely faced their orbital defenses. Once we bring our full might, their resistance will crumble. Little did he know that he had just encountered only the tiniest fraction of Earth's military capability, and that humanity was now fully awake to the threat from the stars. Admiral Voss paced the floor of his private chambers aboard the command ship, now stationed safely beyond Earth's weapon range. His pride hurt more than he cared to admit. In 300 years of service to the hegemony, no primitive species had ever forced his retreat. A soft chime announced a visitor. Enter, he growled. Intelligence Officer Traal stepped into the room, her slender form moving gracefully despite the ship's artificial gravity. Unlike Voss, Traal belonged to a species known for their analytical minds rather than warrior strength. Admiral, I've completed my analysis of the battle, she said, her voice calm and measured. Voss stopped pacing. And? The humans are unusual. Traal activated a holographic display showing recordings of the brief battle. Look at their attack pattern. Every missile came from a different launch site, some from their station, others from various points on their planet. What's your point? Voss asked impatiently. Most species develop unified defense systems, The humans appear to have multiple independent systems that somehow coordinated perfectly. She paused. It suggests a level of military complexity we didn't anticipate. Voss dismissed her concern with a wave of his hand. They caught us by surprise. Nothing more. Their weapons are primitive, simple nuclear devices with basic guidance systems. The only reason they succeeded was that we weren't prepared. Perhaps, Trell said, not entirely convinced. But there's something else. I've been monitoring their communications since our retreat. There's been a massive increase in encrypted transmissions between different regions of their planet. They're coordinating a defense as any species would. Yes, but the pattern is strange. It's not centralized. It's as if multiple independent authorities are making their own decisions. Voss considered this information. It was slightly concerning, but ultimately irrelevant. It doesn't matter. The Council has authorized a proper response. We're assembling an invasion force with 10 times the firepower of our current fleet. Trall's expression remained neutral, but her eyes betrayed her worry. As you wish, Admiral. I'll continue monitoring their communications. Captain Miller, now Commander Miller following an emergency promotion, stood in the underground war room beneath the Pentagon. Giant screens showed military leaders from around the world, all connected to this emergency summit. The aliens have retreated beyond lunar orbit, but their ships remain in our solar system, Miller reported. Our best estimate is that they're waiting for reinforcements. General Taylor of the United States nodded grimly. Then we need to prepare for a real fight. The orbital defense platforms were only ever designed as a first line of defense. Russia is already moving our submarine fleet into position, announced the Russian admiral on one screen. Our nuclear submarines can launch missiles from beneath the ocean's surface, which may surprise them. China has activated our anti-satellite weapon systems, added General Wei. They can be repurposed to target alien vessels. Miller watched, with a mixture of pride and concern as nations that had often been at odds with each other now coordinated their defenses against a common threat. The aliens had made a critical error. They had united humanity. What about our space forces? Asked the British Prime Minister. Miller pulled up a series of images on the main screen. The Orbital Defense Force was never meant to be our primary space military. It was created as an international monitoring and first response system. Each major nation has its own space capabilities that have been kept relatively quiet. The EQ screen showed images of various spacecraft and orbital weapons platforms that most people didn't know existed. The secret space military capabilities of Earth's major powers. India can deploy 60 armed satellites within 48 hours, said the Indian Air Force Marshal. They've been disguised as communication satellites. Japan has 3 squadrons of space-capable fighter craft, added the Japanese representative. Small but fast and heavily armed. One by one, the nations revealed their hidden strength, the military capabilities they had developed in secret, often keeping them from each other. Miller realized that even he hadn't known the full extent of Earth's true military power. We need to coordinate all these forces, Miller said. The aliens think they've seen our best. Let's make sure they understand how wrong they were. Aboard his ship, Voss received the report he'd been waiting for. The main invasion force had arrived from the nearest hegemony outpost, 200 warships armed with the latest weapons technology. It was a force capable of subduing planets with 10 times Earth's military capability. Display the fleet, he ordered. The view screen showed the massive armada now assembled in the outer reaches of Earth's solar system. Voss felt his confidence return. These humans would soon understand the futility of resistance. Admiral, Trell spoke up from her station. I've detected something interesting. The humans appear to be moving large objects from hidden locations on their planet. What kind of objects? It's difficult to say precisely. Some appear to be launching platforms. Others might be weapons or spacecraft. They've been concealed underground or underwater until now. Voss frowned. Show me. The display changed to show thermal images of large facilities opening up in remote mountain ranges, objects rising from the ocean depths, and strange activity in what had appeared to be civilian facilities. What are they doing? He wondered, aloud. I believe they're mobilizing their true military forces, Trell replied. The orbital station we encountered may have been merely their first line of defense. Voss laughed. Don't be absurd. No species conceals its military strength like that. They're just scrambling whatever resources they can find now that they understand the threat. Trall remained silent, but the doubt was clear in her expression. Voss turned to his communication officer. Send a message to the human leaders. Tell them our main force has arrived, and they have one final chance to surrender peacefully. In the Pentagon War Room, Miller received the alien transmission. The message was simple and direct. Surrender or face complete destruction. They still don't understand who they're dealing with, General Taylor said with a grim smile. Miller nodded. Humanity has been fighting wars against itself for thousands of years. We've become very good at it. On the screens around the room, leaders from around the world confirmed their forces were ready. Secret military bases had been activated. Submarine fleets were in position. Space forces were prepared to launch. For the first time in human history, every nation's military was united against a common enemy. The combined might of Earth was about to be revealed. Should I respond to their message? Miller asked. The U.S. President nodded. Keep it simple. Miller typed a short reply and sent it to the alien fleet. We decline your offer. Approach Earth at your own risk. As the message was transmitted, Miller couldn't help but smile slightly. Admiral Voss and his hegemony were about to discover a fundamental truth about humans. What they had seen so far wasn't Earth's army. It was barely even a warning shot, and the real fight was about to begin. Admiral Voss stood frozen on the command deck of his flagship, watching in disbelief as the massive display showed his invasion force being systematically destroyed. What had begun as a simple show of overwhelming power had turned into a nightmare. Battle Group 7 is lost, reported his tactical officer, voice shaking. Battle Group 3 and 5 reporting critical damage. Impossible, Voss whispered. He had brought 200 of the hegemony's finest warships, enough firepower to subdue a dozen planets, yet somehow they were losing. The humans had waited until the invasion fleet entered the inner solar system before revealing their true capabilities. From hidden bases on their moon, from underwater launch facilities, from disguised orbital platforms, and from mountain bunkers came waves of different weapons and spacecraft. 3 more capital ships destroyed, Admiral, the tactical officer continued, unable to keep the fear from his voice. The humans are using at least 15 different weapon types, some we've never seen before. Trall appeared at Voss's side, her face grim. Admiral, we need to retreat. This is not a battle we can win. Voss wanted to argue, but the evidence was clear on the screens around him. The mighty hegemony fleet was being torn apart by a species they had severely underestimated. Order all remaining ships to disengage, he finally commanded. Retreat to the rendezvous point beyond this system. As his damaged flagship limped away from Earth, escorted by the few surviving ships, Voss struggled to understand what had happened. How could a species that had barely reached their own moon have defeated the galaxy's greatest military power? Commander Miller stood in Earth's newly established Joint Defense Command Center, watching the alien fleet retreat. Around him, military officers from 24 nations monitored their forces and cheered as the last enemy ships fled the solar system. We did it, General Taylor said, clapping Miller on the shoulder. They didn't expect us to have so many different weapons and tactics. Miller nodded, but his expression remained serious. They'll be back. This was a significant force, but the galactic hegemony must be vast. We need to prepare for an even larger attack. At least we've shown them we're not easy prey, said the Russian general standing nearby. And now we have time to organize our defenses better. Miller turned to the large screen showing Earth's combined space forces returning to their bases. The battle had revealed something remarkable, the incredible diversity of human military technology. Some nations had focused on energy weapons, others on advanced missiles. Some had built small, fast attack craft, while others had created heavily armored space platforms. Our strength is in our diversity, Miller said. No other species would have developed so many different military approaches, because no other species spent millennia fighting itself. observed the Chinese general with a wry smile. Miller looked at the battle damage reports coming in. They had lost some ships and platforms, but far fewer than expected. Earth had bloodied the nose of a galactic superpower, and the entire planet now understood the threat they faced. For the first time in human history, all nations were truly united. 2 days later, Admiral Voss faced the Hegemony Council through a secure quantum communication link. The 7 members of the council, each representing one of the founding species of the hegemony, stared at him with expressions ranging from shock to anger. "Explain this catastrophic failure, Admiral," demanded Councillor Drez, his voice cold. Voss straightened his posture, trying to maintain his dignity despite the humiliation of defeat. "The intelligence on the human military capability was severely flawed. They concealed their true strength until our main fleet was committed to battle." "How is that possible?" asked another counselor. "Our reconnaissance is thorough. We catalogued all their visible military assets." "That's just it," Trell said, stepping forward beside Voss. "They had invisible assets, hidden ones. May I show the council our findings?" After receiving a nod of approval, Trell activated a holographic display. "Humans organize themselves differently than any species we've encountered. They divide their planet into something called nations, separate governing entities that often compete with each other." Images of Earth's countries appeared, with their flags and military emblems. Each of these nations maintains its own military force, with its own unique technology and tactics. When we first approached Earth, we encountered only their unified orbital defense force, a small cooperative venture between nations. We mistakenly believed this represented their primary military capability. The council members exchanged concerned glances. "How many of these nations exist?" one asked. "Nearly 200, Trell replied, with approximately 40 possessing significant military power. Instead of facing a single enemy with a unified military, we effectively fought 40 different armies simultaneously, each with different weapons and strategies." Silence fell over the virtual meeting as the implications sank in. Finally, Councillor Drez spoke again. "Admiral Voss, the Council has made its decision. You will return to the human solar system with our main battle fleet. Not a mere invasion force, but 30% of our total military strength. These humans must be dealt with before news of our defeat spreads." Voss felt a chill run through him. The main battle fleet was only deployed in the most extreme circumstances. "It will be done, Counselor." After the communication ended, Trell turned to Voss with concern in her eyes. "Even with the main fleet, we may be underestimating them again. There's something I haven't told the Council yet." "What is it?" Voss asked. "Based on my analysis of human communications and their deployment patterns during the battle, I believe what we faced was only a fraction of their total military capability, perhaps no more than 60%. Voss stared at her in disbelief. "That's not possible. No species would hold back during an existential threat." "These humans are different," Trell insisted. "They've been fighting among themselves for their entire history. They think about war differently than we do." Voss turned to look at the starfield visible through the viewport. Somewhere among those distant points of light was Earth, a small blue planet that had just become the hegemony's greatest challenge. "Then we will need to think differently, too," he said quietly. Back on Earth, the celebration of victory was tempered by the knowledge that a greater battle loomed. In the Joint Defense Command Center, Miller led a meeting with military leaders from around the world. "Our intelligence suggests they're gathering a much larger force," he explained, showing images captured by Earth's most distant probes. "We may have only weeks before they return. We should use this time to deploy our remaining military assets," said the Indian admiral. "We still have forces we didn't commit to the first battle." Miller nodded. "Every nation should activate all available military technology. Nothing held back this time." The Japanese general raised a hand. "What about the Omega Protocol weapons? Those have never been revealed publicly." A hush fell over the room. Each major nation had its own Omega Protocol, weapons so powerful or controversial that they had been kept secret from the world, reserved for the most desperate situations. Miller looked around at the grim faces of Earth's military leaders. It's time to put everything on the table. We need to show this hegemony that what they've seen so far was just the beginning. As the meeting continued, Miller couldn't help but feel a strange sense of irony. Humanity's long history of conflict and division, which had caused so much suffering, might now be the very thing that saved them from alien conquest. The hegemony was about to learn a harsh lesson. They hadn't even seen Earth's full strength yet. The sky above Earth darkened as the hegemony main fleet arrived. It was a sight that would have broken the spirit of most species, thousands of warships filling the space between Earth and its moon. The massive vessels blotted out the stars, their weapon systems glowing with deadly intent. On the flagship, now 10 times larger than his previous command vessel, Admiral Voss surveyed the human homeworld. This time there would be no mistakes, no underestimation. He had brought nearly 30% of the entire hegemony military might, a force that had never been deployed against a single planet in the history of the galaxy. All ships in position, Admiral, reported his new second-in-command. The previous one had not survived their last encounter with the humans. Open a communication channel to their command center, Voss ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing Commander Miller's face. The human appeared calm despite the overwhelming force poised above his world. Commander Miller, Voss began, his voice carrying the full authority of the hegemony. You see before you the main battle fleet of the Galactic Hegemony. We command over 3,000 warships, each capable of destroying your largest cities. This is not an invasion force, this is an extinction force. Miller's expression remained unchanged. We see your ships, Admiral. Then you understand your situation. Surrender now, and we will allow your species to survive under hegemony rule. Resist, and we will turn your planet into molten slag. There was a pause as Miller appeared to consider the ultimatum. Then he leaned forward slightly. Admiral Voss, there's something you should understand about humans, he said calmly. We haven't even started fighting yet. Before Voss could respond, the transmission ended. Arrogant to the end, he muttered. Begin the attack. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, the commander of the American submarine USS Defiant received the coded signal he had been waiting for. All hands, battle stations. Prepare to launch Poseidon missiles. Similar scenes played out in Russian, Chinese, British, and French submarines hidden in oceans around the world. Vessels that had once targeted each other now aimed their missiles at a common enemy in space. In the Himalayan mountains, massive doors slid open on hidden bases, revealing launch platforms that had been disguised as natural formations for decades. Beneath the Antarctic ice, research stations transformed as their false exteriors fell away, exposing advanced weapon systems that no human treaty had ever acknowledged. And in orbit, hundreds of satellites that had appeared to be communications or weather monitoring platforms suddenly changed configuration, revealing their true military purpose. Commander Miller stood in the Global Command Center, watching as humanity's final layers of defense revealed themselves. All Omega Protocol weapons authorized, he announced. Commence Operation Thunderstrike. In space, Admiral Voss watched with satisfaction as the first wave of hegemony ships moved into attack position, their energy weapons charged, preparing to deliver devastating strikes to Earth's major cities as a demonstration of power. Admiral, his sensor officer called out suddenly, I'm detecting multiple launch signatures from the planet's oceans. The same missile platforms we encountered before, Voss said dismissively. Our shields are fully prepared this time. No, sir, the officer replied, his voice rising in alarm. These are different, much larger, and there are thousands of them. Voss turned to the tactical display in time to see countless missile trails rising from Earth's oceans. Unlike the previous attack, these weapons moved with incredible speed, using advanced propulsion systems that shouldn't have been possible with human technology. Raise all shields. Evasive maneuvers, he ordered, but it was already too late for many of his ships. The missiles struck with devastating precision, their warheads bypassing shields using technology the hegemony had thought was known only to them. Dozens of warships erupted in flames before the first wave of missiles had even ended. And it was just the beginning. More launches detected, from their mountains, from their ice caps, from their deserts. the sensor officer was nearly shouting now. And their orbital platforms are transforming. Voss stared in disbelief as the humans revealed weapon after weapon, technology after technology. Some ships were struck by energy beams fired from platforms hidden on their moon. Others were targeted by swarms of small attack craft that seemed to appear out of nowhere, launching from what had appeared to be civilian space stations. "This is impossible," he whispered. "No single species could have developed so many different weapon systems." Trial appeared at his side, her expression grim. "That's just it, Admiral. They aren't a single species in the way we understand it. Their division into nations created a military competition that has driven weapons development in dozens of different directions simultaneously." On the tactical display, Voss watched as his mighty fleet, the pride of the hegemony, began to come apart under the human onslaught. In the command center, Miller coordinated the global defense with calm efficiency. Each nation controlled its own forces but followed the overall battle plan they had developed together. "Russian kinetic orbital platforms have destroyed 30 enemy ships," reported one officer. "Chinese space fighters have disabled their command communications," said another. "Indian satellite weapons have blinded half their sensor arrays." Miller nodded, watching as the battle unfolded. The humans were using every advantage: their diversity of weapons, their knowledge of their own solar system, and most importantly, the element of surprise. The hegemony still didn't understand what they were facing. "Sir," called out a communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from one of the alien ships. It's Admiral Voss." Miller nodded. "Put him through." The alien's face appeared. On screen, his composure now completely gone. Behind him, Miller could see smoke and emergency lighting. "What are you?" Voss demanded, his voice shaking with a mixture of fear and rage. "How is this possible? You were barely space-capable when we found you." Miller allowed himself a small smile. "We've been space-capable for decades, Admiral, but we've been war-capable for thousands of years. Humanity has spent most of its history fighting itself. Every weapon you're seeing now was developed for us to use against each other." Voss seemed unable to comprehend this. "But the scale of your military, it would bankrupt any civilization to maintain such forces." "That's the irony, Admiral. Until you arrived, these weapons were our greatest shame, the result of our divisions and conflicts. Now they're our salvation." Around Voss, his command deck erupted in sparks as another hit rocked his flagship. "Admiral Voss," Miller continued, "your invasion has done something no human could ever accomplish. It has united our planet, and you're seeing the result." As if to emphasize his point, a new wave of attacks hit the hegemony fleet from all directions. Ships that had conquered hundreds of worlds were now breaking apart under the combined might of Earth's nations. "You should have brought more ships," Miller said quietly. The transmission cut out as Voss's flagship took another devastating hit. Miller turned to the generals and admirals from around the world who stood with him in the command center. "They're breaking. Push the advantage." As Earth's combined military forces pressed their attack, the greatest armada the galaxy had ever seen began to crumble before the fury of a planet that had spent millennia preparing for this moment. Though they had never known it, the hegemony was about to learn the hardest lesson of all. They had awakened a sleeping giant, and they had only seen the beginning of its strength. Admiral Voss's flagship listed badly to one side, emergency systems blaring as fires raged across multiple decks. The mighty vessel, once the pride of the hegemony fleet, was now barely operational. Around him, the remnants of his once great armada struggled to maintain formation as they retreated from Earth's relentless attacks. "Status report," he demanded, his voice hoarse from shouting orders over the chaos of battle. "We've lost 60% of our ships, Admiral," his tactical officer replied, face grim in the red emergency lighting. "Another 20% are critically damaged. Our remaining vessels cannot continue fighting." Voss slumped in his command chair. This was not just a defeat. It was a catastrophe unlike anything in hegemony history. The implications were too terrible to contemplate. Traal approached him, her usually immaculate uniform now torn and stained. "Admiral, we must consider surrender." Continuing this battle will only result in the complete destruction of our forces. For a moment, Voss wanted to refuse out of pride, but he had a responsibility to the surviving crews under his command. With a heavy heart, he nodded. Open a channel to their commander Miller, he ordered. In Earth's Joint Defense Command Center, the mood was one of cautious celebration. The tactical displays showed the hegemony fleet in disarray, their once perfect formations now scattered and broken as they attempted to withdraw from Earth's weapon range. "They're running," General Taylor said, a note of triumph in his voice. Miller shook his head. "Not yet, they're regrouping. Admiral Voss doesn't strike me as someone who gives up easily." As if in response to his words, a communication officer called out, "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the alien flagship." "On screen," Miller ordered. Admiral Voss appeared, his appearance shocking compared to their previous encounters. The alien looked battered, his once pristine uniform damaged, and the command center behind him filled with smoke and sparking equipment. "Commander Miller," Voss began, his voice steady despite his situation. "I wish to discuss terms." A hush fell over the command center as humans from every nation realized what was happening. The mighty galactic hegemony was offering surrender. Miller kept his expression neutral. "What terms do you propose, Admiral?" "A cessation of hostilities. My remaining ships will withdraw from your solar system. The hegemony will recognize Earth as a sovereign and independent world, not subject to our authority." Miller glanced at the world leaders who were watching the exchange on their screens. One by one, they nodded their agreement. "We accept your withdrawal, Admiral," Miller replied, "but we require assurances that the hegemony will not return with another fleet once you've had time to rebuild." Voss's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "You have my word as an admiral of the hegemony. Your victory will be officially recognized. No further hostile action will be taken against Earth. Then we have an agreement. Safe passage will be granted to your remaining ships." As the transmission ended, the command center erupted in cheers. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged victorious. 3 days later, representatives from Earth met with Admiral Voss and Intelligence Officer Traal aboard a neutral space station positioned between Earth and Mars. It was the first peaceful diplomatic meeting between humans and the hegemony. Miller led the human delegation, accompanied by diplomats from the world's major nations. The mood was tense, but hopeful. "Before we begin formal diplomatic relations," Voss said, "there is something I must understand." He leaned forward, his 4 eyes fixed intently on Miller. "The military force you deployed against us, was that truly the extent of Earth's capabilities?" Miller exchanged glances with his fellow humans before responding. "Actually, Admiral, what you faced was approximately 40% of our total military capacity." A stunned silence followed this revelation. 40%? Traal repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. "But that would mean many nations held forces in reserve," Miller explained. "We also have weapon systems that were not deployed because of their extreme destructive potential. We preferred not to use them unless absolutely necessary." Voss seemed unable to process this information. "How is this possible? Your planet has a fraction of the resources of the hegemony." Traal activated a datapad and placed it on the table. "I believe I can explain, Admiral. I've been studying human history since our first encounter." She displayed images of Earth's many wars throughout history. Unlike species in the hegemony, humans have spent most of their existence fighting among themselves. This constant conflict drove military innovation in ways we never experienced. While the hegemony developed a single unified military doctrine, humans created dozens of different approaches to warfare. The images changed to show Earth's divided nations and their various military technologies. Each human nation competed to create better weapons than their neighbors. This led to parallel development paths and a diversity of military technology that no single unified species could match. Miller nodded. "Our greatest weakness became our greatest strength. The weapons we created to use against each other saved us all," a human diplomat added. "We've spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war. We just never had an outside enemy to use it against until now." Voss looked at the humans with new understanding. The hegemony has made a grave error. We assumed that a united species was naturally stronger than a divided one. In many ways, that's true, Miller acknowledged. But when it comes to military innovation, our divisions drove us to heights you couldn't imagine. Trall turned to Voss. Admiral, this changes everything we thought we knew about interspecies relations. The Council must be informed that our entire approach to expansion needs reconsideration. Voss slowly nodded. Indeed. Instead of conquest, perhaps we should be offering alliance to the humans. He turned to Miller. Your species has much to teach us. 1 month later, the first official hegemony diplomatic envoy arrived at Earth. Unlike the military vessels that had first approached, this was a peaceful mission, with representatives from all 7 founding species of the galactic hegemony. In the Grand Assembly Hall of the United Nations, now serving as humanity's unified voice to the stars, the alien diplomats met with leaders from every nation on Earth. The lead diplomat, a tall, elegant being named Zor, approached Miller, who had been appointed as Earth's first interstellar defense coordinator. Commander Miller, Zor said, his translator conveying a tone of deep respect. I must ask you something that has been troubling the Council since Admiral Voss's report. Of course, Miller replied. Those different military forces we encountered. They weren't your entire army, were they? Miller smiled. No, that was just what we could mobilize on short notice. Zor's eyes widened. And if the hegemony had continued the attack? If we had brought our full might against you? Miller's smile faded, replaced by the serious expression of a soldier who had seen too much war. Then you would have witnessed what humans are truly capable of when our survival is at stake. And trust me, that's something the galaxy should hope never happens. As the diplomatic meetings continued, a new chapter in galactic history began. The species that had once been seen as an easy conquest had become the most respected military power in known space, and the galactic hegemony had learned a valuable lesson. Never underestimate a species that had spent its entire history preparing for war, even if they didn't know it. Earth's divisions, once its greatest weakness, had proved to be its salvation, and now united at last, humanity was ready to take its place among the stars, not as a conquered people, but as equals to be feared and respected. The frightening truth for the hegemony was simple. They had only seen a fraction of what humans could do, and they never wanted to see the rest.